Yo, 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 YouTube, what is up? Welcome to the BK Lounge. It is Saturday, November 16th, 2019. Texas loses a heartbreaker to Iowa State, 23-21, the final score in Ames. Connor Assalley for the Cyclones, a 36-yard game-winning field goal as time expires to give the Cyclones the victory and all but eliminate Texas' chances at a Big 12 title in 2019. With the loss, Texas falls to 6-4 on the year, 4-3 in Big 12 championship play, and now a couple of games back of second place in this Big 12 conference. And once again, this team is probably eliminated from Big 12 championship conversation. They needed to win out these final three games going into today, also get some help from Oklahoma and some other teams across the league as well. But Texas couldn't take care of its end of the bargain. Tough one. Iowa State went up early 10-0, and Texas looked terrible. Got off to a horrible start. I mean, the first quarter, really the entire first half until the last minute of the second quarter was dominated by the Cyclones. And Texas puts together an incredible drive in the final minute of the first half. They score a touchdown, and somehow, some way, this is a three-point game going into the locker room, right? It felt like Iowa State had dominated the first half, and it was a one-possession game. It was a three-point game going into recess. Texas was right there. And then the third quarter, dominated by Iowa State, but somehow, some way, this is a close game going into the fourth quarter, and Texas scores very early on in the fourth quarter, 10 seconds into the fourth quarter, the first play of that final frame, and once again, it's a one-possession game. Like, it felt like Iowa State was in control throughout today's game, and somehow, some way, time and time again, Texas had a shot. They had opportunities. They were right there. And then finally, the Longhorns take their first lead of the game with a little more than 5.5 minutes to play. A heck of a play by Sam Ehlinger on 4th down and 5. Questionable for some people decision to go for it by Texas. It was 20-14 at the time. Tom Herman rolls the dice. He goes forward inside the Iowa State 10. And Sam Ehlinger doing what he does best. I mean, a magic act, avoiding 3, 4, 5 Cyclones in the backfield, somehow scrambles long enough, extends the play long enough, and finds Malcolm Epps open in the end zone for a touchdown. The extra point is good. Texas takes the lead, and then the Longhorns get a stop on defense. Texas got a stop on defense, which has been a huge problem for this team all year long, especially in the fourth quarter, right, going into tonight's game, and this will probably still hold true, even though Texas only gave up 3 in the fourth quarter today. But Texas is the worst fourth quarter defense in the country. Give up 14.2 points per game coming in the final 15 minutes of ball games. And Texas got a crucial stop, which they couldn't do against LSU. They couldn't do it against Oklahoma. They couldn't do it against TCU. They got a stop. It was 4th down and 5 for Iowa State near midfield, and they took a delay of game penalty. Made it 4th down and 10. Iowa State had to punt. Texas got the ball back with a chance to put it away, with a chance to ice it with a couple of first downs. And, man, you can criticize the coaching staff for a lot, especially the offensive coaching staff. I mean, I know Todd Orlando is FBI's most wanted here in Austin, but he did a great job last week against Kansas State, and honestly holding a really, really talented offense like Iowa State to just 23 points. I know that last drive hurt, giving up that field goal at the end hurt, and there were some missed tackles, there were some missed assignments, a huge blown coverage on a long Iowa State touchdown early in the game. I know there were some problems with this defense, but for the most part, you can't ask for too much more out of this defense. With what we know this defense is, for them to go on the road against one of the best quarterbacks in this league, one of the better quarterbacks in the country, to hold them to 23 points, that should be enough to win you the football game. But the play calling on that drive, on that offensive possession for Texas was absolutely atrocious. They go 3 and out. I'm checking my phone right now to make sure I have it. So Texas gets the ball back with 4:01 to play. They run a quarterback power, which didn't work all day and hasn't worked all year for Texas, the Sam Ehlinger run out of the shotgun. They run it again on 2nd down for nothing. Iowa State takes a timeout, and then on 3rd down, a screen pass that was broken up. I mean, predictable vanilla play calling by Tom Herman, and the first 2 run plays were out of 12 personnel, like heavy sets, obvious running looks that Texas was giving Iowa State. There was no threat of a pass on either of those plays, so the Cyclones were able to stack the box. And once again, 2 carries for 0 yards, one by Ellinger, one by Keontae Ingram on that drive. And then the screenplay on 3rd down, I mean, now they're expecting a pass. Like, I don't necessarily hate running it on 1st and 2nd down. I probably would have called that screen on 2nd down just to catch Iowa State off guard, see if you can catch them sleeping a little bit. I would have gone for the throw on 2nd down, something high percentage like that screen. But, man, I mean, 2 heavy personnel runs and then an obvious throwing down in that situation to just throw that screen, which is, I mean, just predictable. Just very predictable, very vanilla. Same stuff we've seen from this Texas offense over the last couple of weeks. And my God, I mean, outside of a couple of drives, this offense was terrible today. Sam Ehlinger nearly pulled a rabbit out of his hat again, nearly did enough to give Texas the victory. But, man, that play calling on that drive when Texas got the ball back with 4 minutes to go and a chance, look, even if they don't kill all 4 minutes off the clock, just a chance to take some time away from Iowa State. Instead, Texas goes 3 and out, and they only take up 45 seconds on that drive. That is terrible. That is inexcusably bad. And that gave Iowa State more than enough time to march down the field to get into field goal range. And then obviously the play everyone's going to be talking about. Man, if you've watched this Texas team over the last decade, you know that this team just invents new ways to lose football games. They just find a different way every year to lose a football game. And the Longhorns get a 3rd down stop. And it sets up for what should be an Iowa State, what would it have been, a 43-yard field goal for the Cyclones? 4th down and 4 at the Texas 25. So it would have been a 43-yard field goal for Iowa State. Their long ball kicker, their distance kicker, is a redshirt freshman who did hit a 48-yarder early in the game, but still a redshirt freshman. And this is a final minute of a game situation. And it's 4th down and 4, and Texas jumps off sides. And there were like 3 or 4, maybe 5 Longhorns who jumped off sides on a field goal. Iowa State's not even running a hard count. They just got excited and jumped off sides. And the 5-yard penalty gave ISU enough yards for the 1st down. And then Iowa State was able to run it a couple of more times, kill all of the clock, and run it down to 4 seconds left before they could kick a much shorter field goal, a 36-yard field goal right down the middle from Connor Assalley. Name spelled like Ass Alley, Assalley. Guess I shouldn't make fun of him. He just beat my alma mater, but it's a weird name. Kind of feel for the kid. But, I mean, that's huge. Offsides on a field goal in the final minute. Are you kidding me? That is this decade of Texas football in a nutshell. And I thought Tom Herman and Texas played that really well in terms of use of timeouts. You know, it would have been a long field goal for Iowa State. If the kicker misses it, then, hey, Texas runs out the clock. All they need is 1 first down, and the game is over. But even if the kicker makes it, even if Narveson makes it, the redshirt freshman, the Longhorns have about 2 minutes to go with Sam Ehlinger on the field, only needing a field goal to win. And you've got one of the most clutch kickers in all of college football in Dicker the Kicker, who already has 2 buzzer-beating field goals this year for the Longhorns. So you would have given Sam Ehlinger another opportunity. You would have given Dicker the Kicker an opportunity to make a play. But instead, on 4th down and 4, on a damn field goal, you jump off sides. I think they called it on Malcolm Roach, but, man, you could have called it on 3 or 4, maybe even 5 different Longhorns on that play. That was rough. I mean, it's amazing this game was even close, considering how poorly Texas played in long stretches up in Ames today. But, man, they were right there. They had the opportunity to get the job done, and they just couldn't do it. And once again, this team's Big 12 title hopes probably dashed because of the loss today. All right, a couple of comments. I'll check these right now. Appreciate the love. We are doing this on YouTube Live, so if you're watching this right now, a little before 6:30 here Central Time, feel free to hit the live chat. If you're watching this after the fact, feel free to comment below, and I'll try to respond to those as soon as I can. From Justin BK, I can't even fathom how bad this team is coached. Where do we stop blaming the coordinators and put the blame on Tom? Look, some of the blame definitely goes on Tom Herman. I mean, this team is horrible out of the gate. This is one of the worst first quarters first quarter teams, in all of college football. Coming into the game, Texas was 89th out of 130 college teams in terms of first quarter scoring. And the Longhorns were held scoreless in the first 15 minutes today up in Ames. And I think that makes it 5 of 7 Big 12 conference games in which Texas has been held out of the end zone in the first quarter. And it's funny, Bob Ballou, a good buddy of mine, a local sportscaster on Fox here in Austin, he actually asked Tom Herman about that this past Monday at his press conference. And Tom Herman said, we don't really pay too much attention to it. Like Bob Ballou asked, what's going on? You guys don't score very many touchdowns in first quarters. Y'all seem to be getting off to slow starts. What's the deal? And Tom Herman's like, we really haven't even noticed it that much. It's like, how do you not notice that? Like, how do you not notice that your team over and over again is getting out the slow starts and they're playing from behind? And you can't always get away with that. I know they did last week against Kansas State, but you're playing a better team on the road. You cannot get away with stuff like that, with slow starts. And, I mean, that's just a recurring theme for Texas this year. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, you put that blame on Tom Herman and the entire coaching staff. And look, assistant coaches are very, very important, guys. Very, very important. I'm not going on this spiel to take any blame off of Tom Herman's shoulders because he's the captain of this ship and he's the offensive play caller, so you definitely can criticize that today, especially that final offensive possession for the Longhorns with 4 minutes to go. But assistant coaches are very, very important in college football. Take LSU, for example. I mean, if you get good assistants, like they've got one of the best defensive coordinators in the country with Dave Aranda, and they've got Steve Ensminger / Joe Brady running their offense. Like, coordinators are very important. And on the other end of the spectrum, let's take Michigan State, like a team 5 years ago that was in the college football playoff, that was contending in the Big Ten. They lose a couple of coordinators, Pat Narduzzi to Pitt. Like, they lose guys, and it's just not the same. It's not the same. That doesn't take any of the blame off of the head coach, but coordinators and assistant coaches are very, very important. And I don't think Texas's coaching staff as a whole is very good. Like, I still have faith in Tom Herman being the right guy for this job, but I think his legacy at the University of Texas is going to be decided this offseason by how he handles his coaching staff. Some of these guys he can't bring back. Like, wide receiver coach Drew Maringer, these wide receivers outside of Devin Duvernay. I know Brandon Eagles had a good game today, but I mean, too much inconsistency there. The defensive line not getting any pressure. You know, Todd Orlando, the defensive coordinator, linebackers coach, the secondary is really bad. Like, there's got to be some conversations had this offseason about the assistants on this coaching staff. Tom Herman's not going to get fired this year. It's just not going to happen. Even if Texas loses the final two, heaven forbid, Tom Herman's not going anywhere. But Chris Del Conte, he's going to tell Tom Herman like it is. Like, you got to figure this out, man. You're running out of time here if this team struggles down the stretch. And once again, 8-4, 7-5 seasons, which is what Texas is looking at now, maybe 6-6. Like, that type of stuff doesn't really fly at the University of Texas. So I think it's a big offseason for Tom Herman. I know he loves alignment, the word that he uses. I know he loves continuity among his coaching staff, but some of these guys just aren't getting it done. And there's an obvious lack of progression going on with the players on this Texas football team. I mean, they look poorly coached, and they don't look like they've gotten better from last year to this year or gotten better over the course of the 2019 season. A lot of that falls on the coaches. Winning is really, really hard. Yeah, I'm curious if Tom Herman's going to say that in his post-game press conference today. That's a tired bit. I mean, winning is tough. Winning on the road against Iowa State is tough. Texas was a 7-point underdog, so they were supposed to lose this game. But, man, this one hurts. And, look, Texas has more talent than Iowa State. So this is a game you feel like they should have won, and especially considering how it went down over the final few minutes. You really feel like this is a game the Longhorns should have won today. CB says changes need to be made to the staff. Yes, sir. Thank you for the comment, CB. Mark says today is proof that it is not very difficult to outsmart a college-age defensive lineman, not the coach's fault. Yeah, I mean, like I know penalties generally falls on the ledger of a head coach. And say, this team's not very disciplined. That must be the coach's fault. I can't blame the coaches for Malcolm Roach going off sides on that field goal there. Like, that's just Malcolm Roach is a senior. He's a captain. He's got to know better than that, man. That That cannot happen. And penalties weren't too big of an issue for Texas today. Let me make sure I'm not talking out of my you-know-what here. 6 for 55 yards. I mean, that's not great, but that's not terrible. The refs were letting them play. There was one really bad pass interference call on Caden Stearns on that final drive, which gifted Iowa State a first down. Iowa State maybe would have gotten the first down anyways. They maybe would have ended the game with a field goal like they did regardless, but that was a terrible call. The refs were letting them play pretty much all day long, and then to call that pass interference was very, very questionable. But yeah, I mean, that's Malcolm Roach. You got to be better than that, man. You can't blame the coaches for that. You can blame the coaches for a lot of things, but you cannot blame them for that offsides on the field goal with just a couple of minutes to go. 10 straight seasons of 4 or more losses for the Longhorns. Yikes. Coming off of the best decade in program history, where I don't think they lost 4 games one time from 2000 to 2000. You look at the stats, Iowa State 466 yards to just 327 for Texas. Iowa State rushed for 112. The Longhorns only 54. Texas averaged just 2 yards a carry tonight against the Cyclones. But Texas, they did enough right. I mean, they got off the field on third down. Iowa State was just 3 of 14 on third down. So that was huge for the Texas Longhorns. An interception was big for Texas as well. And yeah, Iowa State just kind of shot themselves in the foot, right? They had a fake field goal that didn't work. Probably could have been a pass interference there. I mentioned earlier the delay of game penalty on 4th and 5 when they were going for it on the second to last drive of the game for Iowa State. That was big. What else happened with Iowa State? They had one other blunder, too, which cost them some points in the first half. Yeah, I mean, if you watch this game, it felt like Texas was losing by 3 or 4 scores pretty much from the opening kick. Somehow, some way, this game was close, and Texas had a chance to the very last second. Defensive injuries exacerbated by shooting themselves in the foot. Yeah, once again, I mean, it's hard to really criticize the defense, guys. I mean, I know there are some plays that you can turn to. There were some missed tackles today. That really long Iowa State touchdown, let me find exactly how far it was, but y'all know the play I'm talking about. An obvious coverage breakdown. And hell, the first Iowa State touchdown, the tight end, Charlie Kohler, was left wide open, so there was a breakdown there. So, yeah, the defense far from perfect. But considering what this defense has been in 2019, I don't think you can expect a whole lot more than what they did today. They gave up a lot of yards, but man, in 2019, in this conference, yards don't really matter. You just can't give up a lot of points. You can bend all you want, you just don't break. And Texas really didn't break today. I mean, they gave up 23 points to an offense that came into this game averaging nearly 35 points per game this year. So, I mean, that's... Sure, you could criticize the defense. Obviously, that final drive hurt, and this is going to go down as another late fourth quarter defensive drive where Texas just couldn't get off the field when they needed to. But, man, I think the majority of the blame should go on the offense for this one today. What time is it today? Roach jumped, which got them to jump. Okay, so Roach jumped first. It got the other 3 or 4 Longhorns to jump. Thank you for that. Underachieving, says Speakeasy. Yeah, for sure. I mean, this team, look, it wasn't just in Austin, Texas. There were national college football analysts that picked Texas to make the college football playoff this year. This is not a burnt orange Kool-Aid. This is not an Austin local bias thing. There were folks all over the country that thought Texas was going to be a Final Four team, which means 1 loss at most. I had 9-3 before the season, which obviously can't happen. But, man, I was being criticized in Austin for being too negative with a 9-3 prediction, and it turns out even I was too optimistic with Texas this year. But, yeah, I mean, when you're a team picked to make the college football playoff and at minimum picked to make it to the Big 12 championship game, and you're not even going to get there, and it's obvious you're not going to get there still with a couple of weeks to go, without a doubt, that is underachieving for this Texas team. Offensive game planning has been horrible. Yes, I don't disagree. Large stretches of today's game. I mean, the first half was awful, guys. I mean, the last drive was a 75-yard drive for Texas that took 40 seconds. It was awesome, but every other drive in the first half, I think Texas combined for 59 yards. Checking my notes right here. That is unbelievable how bad this offense was. I mean, Chris Nagar, the punter, I always got to be careful saying that, he was all over the field. It's never a good thing when the punter is on the field 10 times. And, I mean, Texas came into this game averaging 3.8 punts per game. They topped that early in the second quarter today. This offense was so bad, and yet somehow, some way, they had a chance to get this one done. All right, just a couple more minutes, guys. I got to go up to the station to do the postgame on the radio. If you want to call into that, 512-447-3776 is the phone number. It'll be on the Horn or hornfm.com if you want to check that one out to get more reaction. But I got a couple of minutes here. Chad Morris, Coach Boom, if South Carolina cuts him. Oh, talking about coordinators. I'll talk about potential coaching changes a little bit later. Nothing's going to happen this year during the season, I should say, with this Texas coaching staff. Casey Thompson, come on down. I'm not sure what that means. Sam Ehlinger played a pretty decent game today. I mean, the first half offensive play calling was so bad. Sam Ehlinger had 7 pass attempts before that final drive of the second quarter. And I don't think his receivers were helping him out. I don't think his offensive line was helping him out. Sam didn't play an A-quality game by any stretch, but, I mean, he damn near willed Texas to a victory today. So he's not the guy you should be criticizing if you are a Texas fan. First loss against Iowa State since 2015. Texas now 14-3 all-time against the Cyclones. And that's a tip of the cap to Matt Campbell, who has now beaten every team in the Big 12. He's the first Iowa State coach ever to beat every team in this conference in the entire tenure while he was in Ames. Like, that is remarkable. Iowa State has been so bad until Matt Campbell got there, and they're a decent team this year. I mean, their 4 losses have been by a combined 11 points. Matt Campbell has done a pretty good job considering the hand he was dealt with when he got to Ames, Iowa. Vince says, should have been aggressive with moving the ball on our last possession. Yeah, I talked about that a little bit earlier. That's what hurts the most for me. That hurts more than the bonehead Malcolm Roach offsides play on that field goal attempt. The last offensive possession of Texas, way too passive, way too vanilla. And, I mean, you needed to take a couple of minutes off the clock. Instead, you take 45 seconds and you punt the ball back to Iowa State. And the Cyclones still had a timeout, maybe 2 timeouts left because of the incomplete pass on 3rd down. That was bad. Where was Jake Smith or Jordan Whittington? Jake Smith was on the field a little bit in the second half. Jordan Whittington still hurt. I mean, I know he was cleared to play. I don't know how much we can expect from him. He didn't play at all last week, didn't play today. I don't think they're going to rush him back at all. Maybe a couple of snaps the next 2 weeks. But, I figure they're just waiting with Jordan Whittington maybe for the rest of the year. All right, guys, I got a boogie. Appreciate the love, man. This the most viewers I've ever had for one of these videos. Thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you for the comments as well. Please like this video. Subscribe to this channel for Texas Longhorn football, basketball, and baseball conversation year-round. Once again, check out the post-game show coming up, hornfm.com or 1049 The Horn if you are in Austin, Texas. Appreciate the love, guys. Once again, the final, Iowa State 23, Texas 21. The Longhorns fall to 6-4 on the year. Now 4-3 in Big 12 play, and this team's Big 12 title hopes are probably done after the loss in Ames to Iowa State. All right, guys, thanks so much. Until next time, y'all have a great night and a great rest of the weekend.